What if I told you that one of the world's most notorious pests could actually be an environmental hero? Well, today we're diving into the absolutely incredible, true story of how a rabbit literally saved a desert.
Okay, so check this out. On one side of the world, in Australia, you've got 200 million rabbits causing so much destruction they're considered a national menace. But on the other side, in China, they intentionally imported an army of 4 million of them for a very special project.
So that begs the question, right? What on earth did China know about rabbits that Australia didn't? The answer, it turns out, is a masterclass in brilliant outside-the-box thinking. Now, to really get this, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem they were facing. Let's meet our story's villain, the Kubuki Desert. It was known by locals as the Sea of Death because it just kept growing. And the force behind this growth was desertification. You know, that process where perfectly good, fertile land gets swallowed up by sand and becomes totally barren. And in China, this wasn't just a small problem. It was happening on an absolutely epic scale. And when I say epic, I mean it. Get this. Every single year, the Kubuiki swallowed another 500,000 acres of usable land. Just try to picture that. A problem that's growing that fast, the stakes were unbelievably high. And look, China threw everything they had at it. Back in the 50s and 60s, they launched these massive tree planting campaigns, set up sand control stations, but nothing worked. The desert's sand and wind were just too powerful. It was relentless.
But then, this entrepreneur, a guy named Wang Wenbao, he comes along with an idea that, well, it sounded completely crazy. He was going to build a garden, right in the middle of the Sea of Death. His first plan was actually so simple it was genius. Super low-tech. He just arranged dead, dry shrubs into these square grids. This simple little fence acted like a natural shield, protecting hardy willow saplings planted in the middle from all that wind and sand. It gave them just enough of a shot to take root and start holding the dunes together. A really clever start, but it was about to hit a major wall.
So here's the snag. For these willow trees to grow strong and become valuable timber, all their new little shoots needed to be pruned constantly. But sending people out to manually prune thousands and thousands of trees in the middle of a remote desert, yeah, that was impossibly expensive. The entire project was right on the verge of failure.
And then, the turning point. A secret weapon was about to enter the scene, and it wouldn't just solve this one problem, it was going to change everything.
They used rabbits. No, seriously. The exact same creature that was wrecking Australia's ecosystem was about to become the savior of China's.
But they didn't just grab any old rabbit. No, they chose the Rex rabbit, and this choice was just perfect. First, its fur is super luxurious and incredibly valuable. Second, it just so happens to love eating the exact tender willow shoots that needed pruning. And to top it all off, these things are prolific breeders. One female can have up to 50 babies a year. It was the perfect, multi-talented employee for the job.
Okay, this is where the story goes from being a clever fix to like a work of ecological art. Because the rabbits and the trees didn't just exist next to each other. They created this perfect, self-sustaining, symbiotic cycle.
It became this powerful eco-economic engine. So the rabbits eat the new shoots, which prunes the trees and makes them stronger. The stronger trees grow deeper roots, which stabilizes the sand and holds onto moisture. Then the rabbit waste becomes a natural fertilizer for the sandy soil. But the most brilliant part of this whole cycle was still to come.
It turns out that rabbits can't actually digest grass seeds. So while they were fertilizing the ground, they were also planting it, spreading new vegetation all across the desert floor. It really brings this quote to life. The rabbits didn't just solve a problem. They created an entire self-sustaining economy from the sand up.
The result was this massive win-win. On the environmental side, the soil was stable, it was holding moisture, and new grass was growing. And on the economic side, the project was making money from timber, that luxury fur, and even new organic farms that could now grow on this reclaimed land.
And over 3 decades, this little experiment just grew and grew into something truly monumental. It didn't just transform a desert, it transformed the lives of every single person who lived anywhere near it.
I mean, the progress over 30 years was just incredible. It starts with Wang's simple idea in the 80s. By the 90s, the rabbits have kicked off a huge local farming boom. A couple of decades later, in the 2010s, the UN officially confirms this massive greening of the desert, and the innovation still wasn't done.
The final results are just mind-blowing. In total, 6,250 square kilometers of the Sea of Death were turned green. That is a full one-third of the entire desert reclaimed from the sand.
And the human impact? Just as massive. An estimated 100,000 people had their lives and their livelihoods totally transformed by this new green economy that literally just sprouted from the sand.
And the numbers really tell the story. An investment of around $400 million led to the creation of over 2,000 new farms. For people who once had to flee this expanding desert, their average annual income shot up to almost $10,000. But the innovation didn't just stop there. In the soil, it actually reached for the sun. The next chapter of the Kubicki story is somehow just as brilliant as the first. They built one of the world's biggest solar power plants right there in the desert. But this is no ordinary solar farm. The panels make tons of clean energy, sure, but they also create shade, which reduces water evaporation and helps fight desertification. This shade allows grass to grow underneath the panels. And that grass is maintained by, yep, you guessed it, a brand new army of rabbit groundskeepers, continuing the exact same perfect cycle.
This whole story just leaves you with this one powerful question. If a place called the Sea of Death can be totally transformed into a thriving oasis, what other so-called impossible problems could we solve just by working with nature instead of against it?